All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's podcast. I want you to meet Natasha, a very good friend of mine, who's a functional nutritionist, yoga therapist, holistic wellness consultant, and the founder of Tetra Nutrition. Her mind body balance approach helps you achieve a healthy gut and hormones through the power of whole foods, lifestyle changes, and science backed supplements. So, welcome and over to you, Natasha. So happy to have you, and I'm glad you're finally doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, I was so excited when you reached out and said, should we do a podcast together? Because we've had not only a great friendship where we've exchanged notes and our growth, and we've sort of seen each other
Yeah.
get better
Support each
and
other's
better at what we
professional.
do.
Yeah, yeah,
But also because I see so much overlap in the work that we do. So I'm so excited about today. Yeah, thank you.
yeah. So today's topic is going to be about nervous system, mental health, and the gut, and how all of this is connected. So is there something that you would like to start by sharing how the nervous system is connected to the gut, how the gut is like the second brain, right? Can you share more light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my work is very closely linked on the intersection of gut, hormones, stress, and how these things affect us on a daily basis, right? So,
Right.
before we get into the science of the gut being the second brain, one very tangible real life explanation, or an example rather, I should say, is when you get a piece of shocking news, right? Something
Mm,
that you weren't expecting.
mm.
What do you feel? Where do you first feel it? You
In the
feel it
stomach,
in
we
your
get
tummy,
jittery,
in your
jittery. Yeah.
stomach. Exactly. So your gut is very, very powerful. Your gut is connected to your brain, right? And this is through a nerve that is called the vagus nerve,
Mm,
VAGUS, not Las Vegas, vagus nerve.
mm,
And this is the longest cranial nerve. So it's the longest nerve in the body that connects these two. So, yes, they are interconnected. Therefore, you might feel something in your gut before your brain even has the capacity to process it,
wow.
right? So before you've had the chance to think about something logically, your gut feeling, as it is called, it is not a woo-woo term, right? It is very,
Mm,
very real. Your gut already knows, oh
right.
shit, I'm gonna hear something bad now. Or oh my God, yes, the news that I was waiting for is finally here. Your gut knows it, right?
Mm.
If you're choosing, should I go right or should I go left? And right looks a little dangerous, like your gut will tell you that,
Mm. But
right?
how do you differentiate between gut and anxiety? Sometimes, that confusion, I get that question a lot from
Yeah,
my clients.
yeah. We'll talk about that. So the gut is called the second brain because we all know that the brain has nerve cells, right? The
Mm,
brain has a lot of neurons. Your gut also has a huge network of millions of neurons. So in other words, your gut has its own nervous system,
mm,
right? So what that means is your gut will function independently of your brain. Your brain doesn't need to tell your gut, oh, hey, now digest food, now stomach squeeze, now produce stomach acids, now send the food down to the intestines. No, your gut can function independently. That is
that's
the
amazing.
the power of the gut.
That's amazing and scary because when something messes up there, right? So that also shows how when an independent organ is getting affected, it kind of messes up the system, right? So it's also scary and it shows how so many people suffer from anxiety or some gut related issues. It's really hard to recover and
Exactly.
bounce
Which is
back.
why the gut is so core to everything. So, when we talk about gut and anxiety, right? As you
Mm,
just mentioned, how do you differentiate between the two? The thing is, it is all interlinked, right? Whenever somebody comes to me saying they have something off with their mood, maybe they're just not feeling amazing when they wake up in the morning, maybe they're feeling anxious all the time, maybe their depression is causing them to not be able to do the things that they want to be doing and thriving in their lives. I am looking at the gut,
mm,
right? And again, the reason for that is the gut and its neurons, the gut and its nervous system. The gut actually produces neurotransmitters, right? Now, neurotransmitters It's not, we don't have to get majorly into the science of it. It's not difficult though. Neurotransmitters are basically chemicals, and these chemicals signal your body and your brain how I should be feeling today, how I should be feeling right now, right? So we may have heard of the terms serotonin, we may have heard of dopamine, we may have heard of GABA. So serotonin is the feel good neurotransmitter, right? It helps us feel happy, it helps us feel calm. Dopamine is the one that keeps us motivated, it helps us to finish a task, right? So if these are out of balance, if your dopamine is low, you'll never want to get up and work out because you don't know what it feels like when you finish that workout, right? Or you have achieved your goal. Yes, I ate a healthy meal. Yes, I finished my workout. Yes, I got my 8,000 steps in today, right? So that is the link between your mood and your gut, because your neurotransmitters are made there, they are made here, right? And your serotonin is made more in your gut than it is made in your brain.
That's crazy.
So it is really like the seat of where all of these come from. So with mood disorders, we are also looking at
Gut
your gut.
disorders.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
And that's why a lot of people who have unhealthy eating cycles, right? If someone is binge eating or if they have tendency to starve themselves, it is linked to depression and anxiety also, right? Like they have some mental illness they are battling with. So how do you want to share about how like even in chakras, right? The solar plexus, talking about the gut, it is connected with self-esteem, self-respect, confidence. And when it is blocked, it's someone who is either on the extreme of someone who's very aggressive and angry and not in control of themselves, or they let people walk all over them, right? They have very low self-worth. And something else that I just remembered is when you don't accept your circumstance, when you feel like you cannot accept something, your body rejects that, and you have nausea or indigestion or diarrhea, the body immediately expels that when at an emotional state you cannot accept your circumstances. And I think that's mind blowing. It is also sad when people don't have this awareness because they tend to just take painkillers or go to doctors and not go to the root of the issue to prevent such cycles from happening. And I suffered from a lot of nausea myself. And when I removed and changed my environment from toxic to, feeling safer, feeling healthier, did my puking actually stop? So I think it's fantastic how the body communicates instantly when there is something off at an emotional, mental level in our lives.
Absolutely. So that also is what serotonin does, right? What we've been talking about. So serotonin is not just something that will help to modulate your mood, right? But serotonin is also the neurotransmitter that will tell your gut what to do, right? So motility of the gut, how fast is food moving down? Is it moving too fast? Are you prone to diarrhea? Is it moving too slow? Are you prone to bloating, gas, even nausea, right? So it dictates, does your food move down? Does it stay or does it move up, right? So are you expelling? Are you expelling too fast? Are you expelling upward, which is nausea and the result of that?
Yes.
So that's where the neurotransmitter comes in, right? Now, when we're talking about what you said about eating and urges, right? So I would look at urges on one side and I would look at mindful eating on the other side. So I just want to very simply sort of break down how I would describe the two. Right. So an urge to eat something is very rarely based on hunger. An urge to eat something is not physiological hunger. Physiological hunger will come on gradually, right? It's not that you're absolutely fine and in the next 1 minute you have this,
Sudden hunger.
need to immediately eat or your body will shut down, right? So that hunger pang, it actually comes on pretty slowly. Now, the question is, are we paying attention to the symptoms when it's coming on, right? Before we get to that peak of hunger where you say, I can eat anything right now to feel better.
This is actually very fascinating to know. And I think it's a great way to identify if you're stress eating, emotional eating, or if you're actually eating because we're hungry. And it's so true because there are times when suddenly you're hungry and there's, like I know what that feels like because I suffer from a lot of acidity. And as soon as you said that, I was like, I relate to your words, and that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So an urge to eat, right? So this can come from your blood sugar being low, right? This something that has to be reverse engineered. If your blood sugar is low, you have to see, when did I last eat? What did I last eat? Was it balanced or not, right? That's a bit more nuanced discussion. I will keep it short. But blood sugar imbalances can lead to an urge happening, some kind of an emotional trigger can lead to an urge happening. You get good news, you get bad news, you are bored, you are frustrated, you have just finished something difficult, and so you decide to reward yourself.
Celebrate.
Right?
Yeah.
So that is where also it comes from. Right? So this is
I have
on one
a
side.
question about this. Okay, like
Yeah.
compared to other coping mechanisms, using food to cope, yes, it can get very dangerous, but if it's controlled, do you think that's a healthier coping mechanism than resorting to substances and alcohol for someone who's going through a tough period? What do you think of consciously using food as a healthier alternative of a coping mechanism to go through tough times, right? Like you said, if you want to reward yourself or you do a difficult task, and then how does that have long-term consequences, or what do you think of that?
Yeah, yeah. So, of course, when we talk on the spectrum of resorting to eating versus resorting to other habits like drugs, like alcohol as a coping mechanism, of course, on the scale of those things, food is the safer one in the short term, right? That being said, we see in the world today the effects in people who chronically overeat, right? People who chronically overeat or eat the wrong kind of foods for their bodies, they are maybe overweight but still malnourished because they don't actually have essential nutrients. They are suffering from a range of metabolic issues, metabolic diseases. So they may have fatty liver, they may have high blood pressure, they may have high cholesterol, which may clog their arteries in the future. So again, if we're looking short term versus long term, we're looking, in that sense, for sure, like overeating is the lesser evil, is what I would say.
It's interesting how you say that even if somebody is obese, they are malnourished. And that is something, I think that's a very important point to consider. Just because someone is obese doesn't mean that they're having too many of like healthy stuff in their bodies. It's just an imbalance. Yeah, because malnourishment, you usually get the idea of someone who's skinny and, just not eating at all.
Yeah. But here we are talking about malnourishment in terms of nutrients. In terms of vitamins, in terms of minerals, in terms of protein, we are looking at things like muscle mass, strength, bone density. All of these factors play an important role in health. Weight is just what you see.
Yeah.
It is what is going on underneath that is
absolutely
more important.
Yeah.
So back to the discussion on urge versus mindfulness. Right now, I want to introduce the idea of what mindful eating actually means, because mindfulness is now a term that's used in wellness very, very widely. Right? So mindful eating is essentially saying, what does my body need right now? Is this hunger or is this an emotional decision I'm making? And most importantly, if I eat this now, what effect will it have on my body? Right? So that distinguishes an urge or a craving from mindfulness. Sometimes we are just thirsty, sometimes we are just angry, sometimes we are just bored. Right? Sometimes we are just going off of habit. Maybe somebody's had a late dinner a night before, but the next day they feel like they still have to have their breakfast at 7 a.m. Whereas actually, maybe the body's still processing the last night's food and it needs a break in the morning. Yeah. Just yesterday, I spoke to somebody who was compensating in this very interesting manner. So they would starve themselves during the day because they knew that in the evening they are socializing, going out, and therefore almost allowing that, in the day I'll be good so that in the night I can eat this, I can drink this, I can do this with my friends, right? Yeah. So the idea is to find the middle path, right? How can you nourish yourself throughout the day How can you even nourish yourself through social interactions? Those social interactions don't have to always lead to you mimicking the same behaviors and habits and patterns. So if somebody's eating something in front of you, it's not necessary you have to partake. You can still be with them. You can
But
still
that
have
takes
conversations.
that takes a lot of self-control, and I think this is connected with the work that I do about healing your relationship with yourself, something that I emphasize on. So when you are able to listen to your body, when you have some amount of self-love and self-care, that you don't give in to the urges because you know that these cravings have harmful effects for you, that out of care for yourself you do what is right. It is easier to say than done, but yeah, that is something, that's why we also have this podcast, to spread awareness, to share this as a reminder that we need to stop abusing our bodies by overeating, by starving, which is something I noticed that a lot of people do. The first basic, talking about the root chakra, which is about the basic needs such as food, water, shelter, nourishment, sleep, safety, right? And when that chakra is blocked, when you're not eating properly, then everything else that people try, especially in spiritual communities or those who try to do a lot of like service or charity, but then their root chakra is blocked, then it's short lived. It's dangerous, and it actually gives a lot of other health issues, blocking all the other chakras. So I think it's easy to say be mindful while you eat. But why would someone be mindful if they don't like themselves, if they hate themselves, if they don't have a good relationship with themselves? What is going to motivate them to even eat mindfully, right? Like, what is going to empower, what resources do these people have to learn to love themselves and accept themselves and have that safe space? So, yeah, I think this is where it beautifully links with having that awareness versus embodying that into action.
Yeah, absolutely. I also was curious to know that when you see people displaying certain behaviors, maybe such as overeating or such as indulging in things, maybe drinking, for example, when they know they should not be drinking. Honestly, it can be any kind of a habit. But do you see it also rooted in wanting to be liked and needing to be part of a community? Because that is something
Absolutely,
that I
to
see
just to
very
fit in.
often.
Yeah, pure
Yeah.
pressure and just to belong. And this is because of a lack of safe spaces where you can actually be authentic and still feel accepted. So it's very natural and a core part of the root chakra to belong to a tribe, right? And when we don't have these safe spaces where we can be ourselves and be accepted for who we are, then we do whatever it takes. And that's a very natural human need. We are social beings. And that is what takes for people to belong to a community, to feel safe, to not feel judged or ostracized or rejected or criticized. That's what they do. So there is no judging people who do that, but to actually create more safe spaces. So that's why I do group coaching for women, to kind of give that container and an experience of what it's like to experience safety and to just be yourself without having to perform, pretend, suppress, or conform. It's so true. We need more places where people can just be themselves, owning their choices without feeling like they have to hide that or, change who they are.
Yeah, I see that a lot because in my clients as well, a lot of them have the fear of being alienated from people who they knew before. And the question I always pose to them is this habit, right? Is it,
Mm.
getting together every day, having a drink every day, or eating a samosa every day, meeting for a deep fried snack every day? Is this the basis of your connection?
Yeah,
Is it really that surface level?
right,
Or is
right.
there something deeper that is binding you together? That is also something that I often will urge people to explore
And
about
it's
themselves.
also the other way around, where people cannot be vulnerable, or, when they cannot form deep connections, this is all they have to work with. When they are not in tune with their own emotions, when they have no idea, no self-awareness about what they need, what kind of connection brings them alive, then it's these superficial things that gives them connection. So again, how mental health is tied to mindful eating, how aware are you, how much of your traumas have you processed, how comfortable and safe do you feel in being vulnerable in environments, in parties, so then it's not always just about food and how is the weather, but actually when someone asks you how are you, you're able to answer without just saying I'm fine.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think with both of us, the overlap is that we like to give people tools to really go inside within themselves, find triggers, slowly start to heal, start to find safety within themselves, within their
Find
bodies,
safety.
within their nervous systems. And honestly, for me, the number one thing I would say to fix gut issues, right, which then connects to hormones, which connects to mental health issues, which connects to energy, it connects to everything. But the one core thing I
Everything.
always say is to work on stress, you know. Slow down
Mm,
the mind. It doesn't have to be racing at the level of a bullet train 24 hours a day. Can you take those pit stops? Can you fill your own cup first
yeah.
before,
I like
performing?
what you always share. Yeah, I really like this one thing that you share. Before eating, take a couple of deep breaths in, regulate your nervous system a little bit so you can digest better. And I always follow that. And I think of you. I love that you share that. It's so basic, but something that we are not mindful enough about. Those few seconds before eating to pause. Yeah,
Exactly. There are very
amazing.
small
And
tools we
yeah,
can bring in.
I small, yeah. Yeah. So maybe that is actually a takeaway that I want to give to all our viewers is to just pause before you eat and to see how loving yourself is connected to your gut and all of your eating issues. It sounds so cliche, it sounds so simple, but it's so deeply connected. And sometimes I tell my clients, I know that everything that I say sounds theoretically, yes, everybody knows that. People preach that everywhere, but how do you embody that? And I think that's where it's important for people to actually get support, to see a coach, to get in touch with someone who can help them embody that, to release the resistances and blocks that are there, and to actually do the work so they can truly physically make these changes too. So it's not just, okay, I'm aware, but how am I going to make these changes and for my body? Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share?
That would be my takeaway too, is don't try to do everything on your own. Don't try to heal in
Mm,
isolation.
yes.
Don't try to overanalyze and just find, here are the 10 things that are wrong with me, maybe you
Mm,
can just find one thing at a time to work on, but with the correct guidance, that one thing
yeah.
will unlock, like an open green valley where then you can then be in a safe space to heal the rest of your
Yeah.
issues.
Because
Yeah.
when there's too much awareness, there's this tendency to want to fix things. And then it doesn't last really because we are not usually very comfortable when we find out that, oh, I'm doing something wrong and we try to fix it. And that gets overwhelming. And to distract ourselves from that, we bitch eat or, distract in other ways. And then it becomes an overwhelming cycle that you're caught in feeling hopeless. So I love your takeaway. Just focus on one thing at a time, and that will open a lot of other doors. And yeah, that's beautiful. So if anybody watching this, if you have your takeaways, please share in the comments below, and you can follow us on Instagram. I'll share the links here. It's such a lovely conversation. Every time I talk to you, it's so beautiful, and I'm looking forward to having more such conversations with you.
Yeah, me as well. I feel like we have such good energy flowing around and such good information exchange.
And it's so
And yeah, I also,
simple. I feel like today's session is the conversation is just so simple, so beautifully connected, interlinked, and I really do hope it benefits whoever is watching. Thank you so
yes, I
much.
hope so too.
Have a great day.
All right. Thanks for having me.